What if I told you that deep within your brain, hidden in a spot that has never seen sunlight, lies a secret eye capable of seeing beyond the reality you consider absolute? Imagine hearing this not from an anonymous mystic, but from Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest geniuses to ever walk the earth, someone who dared to see the invisible when everyone else was limited only to what they could touch. Tesla believed that nature creates nothing by chance, and for him, the pineal gland, that small structure forgotten in the depths of the mind, was not a mere biological curiosity, but a cosmic antenna, an inner beacon created to capture hidden vibrations that escape ordinary vision. Have you ever wondered why nature would place something resembling an eye in the heart of the brain, precisely in a place where there is no physical light? For Tesla, the answer was clear. This eye was not created to register shapes or colors, but to perceive what lies beyond space and time. Throughout history, philosophers and mystics have spoken of the so-called third eye, but Tesla went further. He saw it not just as a spiritual symbol, but as a real piece of cosmic engineering, designed to connect human beings to the frequencies of the universe. He wondered, if our eyes already fulfill the function of showing us the world, why should there be another, hidden, silent, invisible one? Could it be because there are entire dimensions that ordinary eyes can never see? This idea alone is disturbing. If we have an eye that sees beyond, why do we continue to live as if we were blind? Tesla believed that the pineal gland functioned as a natural antenna, capable of capturing signals so subtle that they escape our measuring instruments. Think about it. Inside your brain are microscopic crystals, similar to those used in radios, capable of reacting to magnetic fields and vibrations. Doesn't it seem like a coincidence that such a mysterious structure is positioned at the center of the nervous system, at the core of consciousness? While modern science rushes to reduce it to a sleep regulator and melatonin producer, Tesla viewed it as the forgotten link between humanity and the cosmos. And here's where a profound conflict arises. Who's right? Science, which insists on limiting the pineal gland to basic physiological functions, or Tesla, who saw it as a portal to invisible dimensions? What if both views were correct, but incomplete? What if in fact this small gland was a two-way beacon, regulating our bodies while connecting us to vibrations larger than life itself? How many times have you dreamed of images so vivid they seemed more real than waking reality? Where do these visions come from? Why do we see colors and lights even with our eyes closed, plunged into darkness? Tesla would say, it's the pineal gland emitting its own spark, creating a radiance that depends not on the sun, but on inner energy. There's something unsettling about this possibility. If we carry within us an eye capable of seeing beyond the visible, why do we choose to live as prisoners only of what is tangible? Perhaps because we've been taught to distrust the invisible. Perhaps because our society has conditioned us to believe that reality is only that which can be measured and weighed. But Tesla didn't accept this limit. He saw the universe as a symphony of frequencies, and believed that the pineal gland was the instrument that could tune us into this silent music. He said that the universe vibrates in resonance, and that everything that exists is energy in motion. What would happen if human beings learned to fully utilize their inner antenna? Wouldn't they be able to perceive fields of reality that today remain hidden? This is the first shock, admitting that we may not know ourselves completely. Think about how we live, guided by eyes that only see external forms, while ignoring the inner eye that could reveal another layer of existence. Isn't it ironic? It's like having a telescope inside your brain and never daring to point it at infinity. And the question Tesla leaves us with is simple and disturbing. If this eye is there, why don't we use it? What are we missing by living as if it didn't exist? You may feel reluctant to accept this idea. It's natural. Our minds fear what escapes our control. But the truth is that since ancient times, entire civilizations have recorded this mystery. Egypt represented the pineal gland as the eye of Horus. Hinduism called it Ajna, the center of intuition. For Tibetan mystics, it was the gateway to inner vision. And for Tesla, all these symbols echoed the same universal truth. Human beings carry within themselves a spiritual technology so advanced that we still don't know how to use it. Now imagine that the brain is a theater. The ordinary eyes would be the spectators recording the scene, but the pineal gland would be the hidden lantern, projecting light from within, illuminating that which does not belong on the physical stage. This image leads us to an uncomfortable reflection. What if we are only experiencing half of life? What if the reality we know is only the visible part of a much larger spectacle, while the real play unfolds in the invisible frequencies we dare not access? Tesla not only intuited this, he lived it as if it were real. He believed that ideas, inspirations, and visions did not originate in an isolated brain, but were transmitted by invisible fields that the pineal gland could capture. For him, genius was not a gift, but an ability to tune into frequencies most people ignore. He himself said that many of his inventions appeared in his mind, as if they were already prepared, projected in images so clear that he only had to draw them on paper. What does this mean? That his pineal gland was perhaps more awake than most? And here arises another conflict. If Tesla could access this invisible source of knowledge, could we all do the same? Or have we been kept from this potential by external forces, by limiting beliefs, by an education that teaches us to see only what is tangible? Ask yourself, how many times have you felt strong intuitions, sudden visions, or premonitions that seemed inexplicable? Could this be the whisper of your inner antenna trying to make itself heard? For Tesla, the pineal gland was not just a gland, but the key to humanity's future. He believed that man's destiny was not to live as a passive spectator of the universe, but as an active transmitter of cosmic frequencies. If this is true, then what we call the limits of reality are merely the boundaries of our own perception. What if suddenly you could see not only what's before your eyes, but also the invisible field that sustains everything? Wouldn't that completely change the way you understand life? This is the provocation Tesla leaves us. It's not a comfortable invitation. On the contrary, it destabilizes our certainties, forcing us to face the possibility that life is much more than we believe. What if this hidden eye, this forgotten gland, were precisely proof that we carry within us a piece of infinity? What choice would you make? Continue living only with the eyes of the body, or dare to open the eye that sees in the darkness? And as this question echoes, the feeling lingers in the air that something is about to be revealed. Because if this eye truly is a cosmic antenna, then what happens when it finally opens and connects to the vibrations of the universe? What will we see when we cross the boundary of ordinary vision? This is the next step, and there will be no turning back once we face this answer. Imagine for a moment that within your brain lies a secret antenna, invisible to the eye but sensitive to the subtlest forces of the universe. Nikola Tesla believed this. For him, the pineal gland was much more than a biological curiosity. It was a cosmic receiver, a point of contact between the human mind and the frequencies that permeate all creation. When he said that the universe can be understood only in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, Tesla wasn't just talking about his machines, but also about the human body, this mysterious instrument we carry without fully understanding it. The problem is that while we have this antenna within us, few know how to use it. We live surrounded by invisible signals, but almost always disconnected from them. Think about your everyday life. How many times have you walked into a room and felt a strange pressure, as if the air were heavy, even though no one had said a word? How many times have you approached someone and, even before they spoke, had the feeling something wasn't right? These common episodes, often dismissed as subjective impressions, could, for Tesla, be explained as the workings of our internal antenna. The human body isn't blind to frequencies. It reacts to them constantly. The problem is that most people live without realizing it. Tesla, observing nature, noticed repeating patterns at different scales. For him, there was no separation between what was outside and what was inside the human being. Just as a radio antenna captures signals from space, the pineal gland would be able to capture invisible vibrations. This comparison gains even more strength when we discover that it contains tiny crystals that react to magnetic fields, just like radio receivers. This means that in our brains we carry a natural tuning mechanism. But the question Tesla posed was inevitable. Why, then, do we live as if disconnected? A simple example can help us reflect. Imagine you have an old radio at home. It's intact, but turned off. The world around you is still full of invisible waves, music, voices, news, but you hear nothing. The device just needs to be turned on and tuned to the right frequency. This too, according to Tesla, would be our pineal gland. It's not that the universe isn't transmitting signals. It's that most of us have forgotten how to adjust the tuning knob. This image presents us with a conflict. If we already have the antenna, why don't we use it? What's stopping us from listening to the silent music of the cosmos? Tesla believed that at some point in history, humanity drifted away from this knowledge. Ancient cultures seem to have a greater awareness of this hidden eye. Egyptians represented it in symbols, Hindus associated it with the third eye, and Andean peoples created rituals of energetic alignment. But in the modern world, with its haste and overstimulation, we've forgotten. It's as if the noise of civilization has drowned out the deeper melody. The excess of artificial light, the bombardment of information, the artificial waves circulating everywhere, all of this acts like a curtain that disconnects us from the finest signal. Now think about your own routine. How many hours a day do you spend exposed to bright screens, incessant notifications, and artificial sounds? When was the last time you sat in absolute silence, away from all distractions, simply listening to your own body? Tesla lived in a time when electricity was still in its infancy, but he already realized that modern noise could disrupt the deepest human connection. He himself sought long periods of silence and solitude, believing that the mind became more receptive when disconnected from external chaos. There's also an emotional dimension to this issue. Tesla intuited that our emotions are not just internal states, but emitted frequencies. Fear, for example, vibrates in a low, dense range that contracts. Love, on the other hand, expands and tunes into another, higher, clearer range. This perception is visible even in small things. When you're angry, your body feels heavy, the environment feels heavy, and even the colors appear different. But when you're in love or at peace, everything lights up. The same landscapes seem more beautiful. People seem more approachable. Reality changes, not because the world has changed, but because your inner tuning has changed. Tesla called this resonance. The universe responds to the frequency you emit. This point leads us to a disturbing question. If the pineal gland is our antenna, and emotions are our frequencies, to what extent do we shape the reality we experience? And even more, why do we insist on living trapped in low frequencies, such as fear, anxiety, and resentment? Wouldn't it be like having a radio station capable of capturing infinite music and always choosing to hear only noise? Tesla would say it's a lack of awareness, a lack of training, a lack of courage to experience a higher frequency. There are stories that illustrate this powerfully. A violinist on a busy subway might play one of the most beautiful pieces ever composed, but most people would rush past, not listening. The music was there, the sound was available, but no one was tuned in. The same thing happens with the subtler frequencies of life. It's not that they don't exist. It's just that almost no one stops to listen to them. Tesla saw this as the tragedy of modern humankind, living surrounded by signals, and yet acting as if in absolute silence. But what does learning to use this antenna mean in practice? Tesla believed it was necessary to relearn how to be silent, relearn how to observe, relearn how to feel. He himself reported experiences of visualization so intense that his inventions appeared before his eyes as if they were real, without the need for preliminary drawings. His mind projected clearly because it was tuned to a special frequency. And wouldn't this be proof that the pineal gland, when awakened, is capable of capturing ideas and visions that transcend ordinary logic? The question remains, is this a privilege of geniuses like Tesla, or a potential within us all? If you've ever had a hunch that came true, if you've ever dreamed of something that seemed to anticipate a real event, if you've ever felt a decision was right even without logical explanation, you may have experienced a glimpse of this antenna working. Tiny sparks of a greater power we carry but rarely acknowledge. And here arises another tension. If we have this power, why don't we use it fully? Is it because we've been taught to disbelieve? Is it because it's more comfortable to live only with what our eyes see? Tesla insisted that humanity still lives at a low frequency, trapped in repetitive patterns, unable to perceive the richness of the subtler realms. He believed that the future belonged to those who dared to learn to tune into the pineal gland, to attune themselves to the great universal melody. This perspective forces us to look at ourselves differently. Perhaps we are not just passive spectators, but active transmitters and receivers. Perhaps the life we see around us is not just the result of external forces, but also of the frequency we choose to sustain within ourselves. And if so, every emotion, every thought, every silence can become a tuning key. Have you ever considered this? That the way you look at someone, the way you allow yourself to be overcome by anxiety or calm, can literally change the season of your experience of the world. The most surprising thing is that this isn't just mysticism. Science has already confirmed that the heart, for example, produces the most intense electromagnetic field in the body, hundreds of times stronger than that of the brain, and that the pineal gland contains crystals with electrical and magnetic properties. These facts seem to echo Tesla's intuitions. The human body is a circuit, and the pineal gland is the central antenna. The question that remains open is, will we continue to live as if this circuit didn't exist? Imagine the impact of awakening this consciousness across an entire society. People living less in fear and more in harmony, not by escaping reality, but because they've learned to tune into their own frequencies. The pineal gland would then be no longer a forgotten mystery, but a tool for collective transformation. Isn't this exactly what Tesla envisioned when he said that the future belongs to those who see beyond the visible? And now, at the end of this reflection, an inevitable provocation remains. If we truly have this antenna within us, what will happen the day we fully activate it? What will we see when the tuning is clear, free from the noise that surrounds us? The answer to this question is not just a curiosity, it is the promise of a leap in the way we understand ourselves and the universe. And that is precisely where the next part of this journey begins. What if I told you that your entire body is actually a living electrical machine, and that every part of it responds as if it were a circuit connected to a larger network? Nikola Tesla believed exactly that. For him, the human being was not just a collection of organs, bones, and blood, but a complex system of vibrations, an invisible engineering constructed by nature itself. He saw the body as a sacred machine, where each point, each gland, each heartbeat plays a specific role in an energy flow that, when interrupted, generates disharmony, and when balanced, opens doors to higher states of consciousness. If the heart is the central engine that radiates electromagnetic fields far beyond the skin, and the pineal gland is the cosmic antenna that captures signals from the universe, then what happens when both begin to resonate together? Imagine an orchestra. Each instrument can play alone, but only when all are in tune does the symphony emerge. The same is true of the body. Each organ vibrates at its own frequency, but only in harmony does the greater music of life unfold. Tesla didn't see this as a poetic metaphor. He literally believed that our bodies are electrical instruments, capable of resonance. This is why certain sounds heal us, why certain environments suffocate us, and why certain encounters seem to stir something invisible within us. But if the body is a circuit, how can we learn to decipher its messages? Perhaps the answer lies in small signals you've experienced without even realizing it. A sudden shiver when listening to a song, an immediate sense of peace when touching the earth barefoot, a tightness in your chest when entering a place filled with tension. What are these reactions if not reminders that you are not just flesh and blood, but also vibration? How many times have you ignored these signals, thinking they were just passing sensations? What if, in fact, they were codes sent by your own body, asking you to adjust the tuning of your life? Tesla believed that everything in the universe seeks resonance. One wave meets another, and together they expand. If you throw a stone into a pond, the ripples spread until they collide with those of another stone. Now think, what if your emotions, your thoughts, and even your gestures also generated waves? Where do they go? Who do they touch? How many invisible realities are shaped around us by these frequencies? Wouldn't it be naive to believe that only machines emit signals while human beings, an infinitely more complex machine, emit nothing? And here a rift arises. Perhaps we are not only transmitters, but also receivers. If you come into contact with someone filled with fear, don't you feel that density? If you're near a radiant person, don't you notice how your own body responds? Tesla saw this as proof of what he already intuited. Human energy is not isolated, but intertwined with that of others in the environment. What if, without realizing it, you were constantly exchanging invisible information with everyone around you, as if you were part of a giant electrical grid? Modern science, with all its instruments, begins to confirm this reasoning. We already know that the heart emits the most powerful electromagnetic field in the body, hundreds of times greater than that of the brain. This field doesn't end at the skin, but extends for meters around, interacting with everything it encounters. Wouldn't it be logical, then, to believe that we live immersed in an ocean of human fields that intersect, mix, clash, and harmonize? Have you ever wondered if collective emotional states, a crowd at a party or a city in panic, aren't precisely the result of this vibrational network in action? Tesla believed that the human body responds to vibrations in the same way an electrical machine responds to a current, with expansion, blockage, or failure. What if it were possible to learn to consciously manipulate these flows, as if one were an engineer of one's own life? Wouldn't this be a kind of freedom few dare imagine? After all, if we are living electrical systems, how often do we fail simply because we don't take care of our internal network? Proof of this can be found in simple experiences. Think of a massage that relieves long-standing pain, an acupuncture point that unlocks stagnant energy, a simple hug that completely changes your emotional state. These seemingly small gestures can be explained as interventions in the invisible electrical network that Tesla believed existed within us. What do you feel when someone holds your hand in a moment of despair? Just physical warmth? Or also an invisible current that transmits and alters your vibration? Now imagine if this entire network were consciously utilized. Ancient civilizations seem to know this. Egyptians applied stones and metals in specific rituals. Tibetans used sounds and mantras as energy modulators. Indians mapped energy points called chakras, and each tradition, in its own way, recognized that the body is more than biology. Tesla read these signals as attempts to translate the same truth. We are vibrational machines, and the pineal gland is the central point of attunement. But here an uncomfortable question arises. If the ancients knew, why have we forgotten? Or did someone want us to forget? The body, for Tesla, is not just a container for the soul. It is a cosmic machine designed to resonate with the universe. This means that every pain, every shiver, every emotion is more than coincidence. It is a message. But how often do you treat these signals as noise when in fact they are codes? What would happen if, instead of ignoring them, you began to listen consciously? Wouldn't it be like learning a new language, the vibrational language of your own life? What if this language could change not only you, but also your environment? Tesla saw the human being as a networked transmitter. If a single lit bulb can illuminate a room, imagine millions of bodies vibrating at a higher frequency. Wouldn't we transform not only our individual lives, but the very atmosphere of the Earth? What then would prevent an inner change from triggering, on a global scale, a global transformation? This question isn't utopian. It's vibrational physics taken to its ultimate consequences. But there's a problem. We live disconnected. We're like machines with loose wires, electrical systems that don't know where the energy goes. And when there's no direction, chaos ensues. Anxiety, fear, unexplained illnesses, feelings of emptiness. How many times have you felt drained, even when surrounded by stimuli? Could it be because your energy was drained by invisible connections you couldn't manage? How many times have you entered a place and left worse off than when you entered, with no rational explanation? Tesla would have seen this as a clear example of negative resonance, of low frequencies that your body absorbed defenselessly. What if we learned to shield and direct this energy? Tesla believed it was possible. He said that the human mind, when trained, could tune like a precise antenna. The entire body, for him, was like a high-voltage circuit, capable of capturing, transforming, and emitting energy. What does this mean for your practical life? That every emotion, every choice, every silence can be a frequency adjustment. The question is, do you control your energy, or is it controlled by it? At this point, a reflection arises that shatters any common narrative. What if what you call destiny is nothing more than the vibrational pattern you insist on sustaining? What if the same situations repeat themselves because you keep emitting the same signal? Tesla believed that resonance shapes reality. Just as a tuning fork makes another vibrate at a distance, its frequency attracts similar circumstances. Isn't your life, then, a direct reflection of your invisible field? And if so, why do we keep insisting on repeating low frequencies when we could choose new ones? The shock of this idea is profound. It means that perhaps we are not victims of chance, but prisoners of our own waves. And it also means that we can be liberators if we learn to change the pattern. Tesla didn't see this as mysticism, but as a universal law. He believed that when we fully understand the body as a sacred electrical machine, there will no longer be a separation between science and spirituality, because both will be describing the same phenomenon in different languages. And now the inevitable suspense arises. If everything vibrates, if everything resonates, if everything responds, what happens when the human body, with its solar heart and its pineal gland, begins to function in perfect harmony? Wouldn't it be like activating a lighthouse within each person? What would we see? What would we feel? Would we still be the same? Or would we be facing a revolution so profound that it would forever change the way we understand life? It is into this territory of questions that the journey advances, because if the body is truly a sacred machine, the pineal gland is not alone. It is merely the center of a larger system. The next revelation will lead us to understand how this network of invisible points, the energy centers that the ancients called chakras, can transform not only our inner vision, but the very reality in which we live. What if everything you believe you see with your own eyes is nothing more than a projection? Nikola Tesla said that the human brain is not only a receiver of information, but also a transmitter, and above all, a projector. This idea may seem absurd at first glance, but think for a moment about how a movie theater works. You enter a dark room, look at a white screen, suddenly see an entire world unfold before you. You feel emotional, laugh, cry, fear, and anxiety. But deep down, you know there's nothing real on that screen, just light projected from a device hidden behind it. For Tesla, the reality we experience every day is similar. What we see may be just a reflection of an internal projector that creates, shapes, and colors the world according to the frequency we're tuned to. This idea gains strength when we consider something we've all experienced: dreams. With eyes closed in complete darkness, the brain creates vivid images, sounds, colors, even physical sensations. How can someone feel so scared in a nightmare that they wake up sweating and with a racing heart, if nothing real is happening? If the brain is capable of projecting such an intense reality during sleep, why wouldn't it do the same while awake? Tesla saw this as a clue that we live trapped in a constant projection mechanism, where our emotions and internal frequencies act as filters for what we call reality. Have you ever noticed how the same situation can be completely different depending on your emotional state? A place can feel oppressive on a sad day, and in the same place, you can feel inspiration and lightness when you're at peace. The physical space hasn't changed. What has changed is the frequency of your internal projector. This seemingly simple detail has enormous consequences. If reality changes according to your internal state, then what you see every day may not be the absolute truth, but merely the version projected from your vibration. This means that we live, to a large extent, inside a movie we ourselves create, consciously or unconsciously. But here the inevitable question arises: who controls this projector? Are we the authors of our own film, or merely spectators hypnotized by the plot that repeats itself without our realizing it? Tesla believed that until we awaken to this awareness, we would live as prisoners of low frequencies, always projecting the same patterns of fear, repeating the same mistakes, recreating the same pain. Have you ever wondered why some situations in your life seem to repeat themselves, as if it were the same script, only with different actors? Maybe it's not bad luck, maybe it's resonance. Modern science is beginning to produce data that seems to reinforce these intuitions. Neuroscience research shows that the human brain doesn't clearly distinguish between what's seen in the external world and what's visualized from within. This is why high-performance athletes use visualization techniques to improve their performance. By mentally imagining a perfect run or a precise jump, the same neural circuits are activated as if they were actually performing the movement. The body responds to internal images in the same way it responds to external stimuli. This means that, in a sense, the brain doesn't differentiate between the real and the imagined. What if most of our experiences were shaped precisely by these internal images, often created by the pineal gland, that secret lens that Tesla claimed was the key to projection? True stories help illustrate this mystery. There are records of people blind from birth who, during dreams, describe colorful, detailed visions, even though they had never seen light or forms in the physical world. How would this be possible if there weren't an internal projector emitting light from within the brain? This phenomenon, which science still struggles to explain, seems to confirm Tesla's vision. Within us exists a source of clarity, independent of the sun, a luminous spark capable of creating entire worlds. And the uncomfortable question is, to what extent is what we call reality also a creation of this same mechanism? Statistics on lucid dreaming also reveal something interesting. Research indicates that approximately 55% of people have had a lucid dream at least once in their lives, in which they realized they were dreaming and were able to some extent to control the experience. This means that more than half of humanity has had direct contact with the sensation of being the author of an internal film, changing scenarios, creating experiences, choosing paths. If this is possible during sleep, why wouldn't it also be possible during wakefulness, in more advanced states of consciousness? But there's an obstacle: constant noise. Tesla said the universe is like a symphony of frequencies, but most people only hear the noise. Imagine a radio station trying to broadcast a song, but it's invaded by static. You hear only noise, though the melody remains intact. Similarly, our internal projector could show a broader reality, but the confusion of uncontrolled emotions, fears, and repetitive patterns creates distortions. Have you ever found yourself trapped in anxious thoughts that repeat themselves like a broken record, preventing you from perceiving new possibilities? This may be exactly what Tesla called living in a low frequency. A historical example may help. During World War II, reports from soldiers showed that many saw the same images in recurring nightmares: explosions, screams, smoke. Decades later, these men still projected the war into their minds, even in times of peace. This shows that the projected reality doesn't end when the event ends. It continues within the projector. If trauma can shape perception for years, what else do we carry without realizing it? And how many of our current fears aren't echoes of internal films we insist on replaying? Tesla believed that the pineal gland was the lens capable of changing the way the projector works. He claimed that this gland could be adjusted like a camera lens, allowing us to see not only what we were already accustomed to, but also new dimensions of reality. This means that changing the way we perceive can literally change the world we live in. But here arises a challenge. How do we adjust this lens? Is it possible to do so consciously, or are we doomed to repeat the same films? Recent research shows that meditation practices profoundly alter brain patterns. A study published in the journal Neuroscience Letters showed that people who meditated regularly experienced increased brainwave coherence, a sign that different areas of the brain began to operate in greater harmony. This suggests that states of presence and silence help clear out noise, allowing the projector to function more clearly. Tesla, who spent long hours in creative silence, already intuited this. For him, it was precisely in stillness that the most powerful ideas emerged. Have you ever noticed how, in moments of calm, you can see solutions that previously seemed impossible? But what if it weren't just a matter of ideas? What if the reality around you also changed according to this internal attunement? There are surprising stories to that effect. An experiment conducted in Washington in 1993 brought together around 4,000 people to practice collective meditation for a few weeks. The result, recorded by the local police, was a reduction of up to 23% in crime rates during the period of practice. What does this mean? That the vibrational field of a group of people in tune was able to alter statistics for an entire city. This data is disturbing because it suggests that external reality can indeed be influenced by internal states of consciousness. Could this not be proof that the human projector affects not only those who carry it, but also the collective environment? Tesla, reflecting on the future of humanity, said that everything would be transformed when we learned to see beyond the visible. For him, true advancement would come not only from external machines, but from the rediscovery of inner potential. If the brain is a projector, and the pineal gland is its lens, then learning to adjust this mechanism is perhaps the greatest leap we could take. What would happen if an entire generation awakened to this power? Wouldn't it be like leaving a dark movie theater and noticing for the first time the sunlight outside? But here lies a breach of expectations. If all this is possible, why do we remain trapped in films of fear, anxiety, and repetition? Perhaps because, as viewers, we are afraid to take on the role of screenwriters. Creating our own reality requires responsibility. It requires abandoning old patterns. It requires accepting that much of what we experience is a result of what we project. Are you prepared to look at your own life and ask, what is the film I am projecting today? Tesla's great provocation continues to resonate. If we are living projectors, then every emotion, every thought, and every intention is an image cast into the invisible field. This means that even in silence, you are creating. And the question is not whether you create, but what you are creating. What happens when millions of people project fear at the same time? And what would happen if, instead, millions projected hope? History shows that collective waves of emotion have been able to change the course of entire nations. So why doubt that the same can happen in our individual lives? Ultimately, Tesla's idea confronts us with an inescapable responsibility. If the brain is a projector, the pineal gland is the lens, and the heart is the light that powers the image, then each of us carries an invisible cinema that shapes reality. And, even more disturbing, is the realization that we may be experiencing only a limited reflection, while the true dimension of what we can project remains hidden. The question remains clear. What will happen the day we adjust the lens to see beyond what we believe to be real? This is the next step, and it's impossible to remain the same after facing this answer. Because if life is a film projected from within, then the invisible gears of the body, those the ancients called chakras, may hold the key to transforming not only the individual script, but the collective reality itself. What will we see when this entire gear begins to turn in harmony? What if I told you that the human body isn't just a collection of organs and bones, but a living electrical network formed by energy centers that function like invisible gears? Nikola Tesla saw the human being exactly like this, a vibrational machine that, when tuned, could connect to the entire universe. He believed that nothing existed in isolation. Every point of the body, every pulse, every nerve impulse was in resonance with higher frequencies. And if this network were understood as a circuit, wouldn't we be faced with proof that our biology is merely the surface of a much deeper engineering? The ancients called these centers chakras, describing them as wheels of energy rotating at different frequencies along the spine. For centuries, these concepts were treated as mysticism, but for Tesla, they were metaphors for a physical truth, points of vibration capable of regulating not only the body, but also the state of consciousness. If the pineal gland is the central antenna, then the chakras are the gears that feed and distribute energy throughout the human machine. What happens when one gear stops working? The entire system loses efficiency. The same happens to us. When one of these energy centers stops working, our entire life loses balance. Consider a simple example. The base of the spine, linked to the survival instinct, is what we call the root chakra. When it's balanced, we feel safe, stable, and confident to act. But when it's out of harmony, constant fear arises. The anxiety of losing what we have, the feeling that the ground could disappear at any moment. Have you ever felt this paralyzing insecurity? It's a reflection of a weakened vibrational center. Tesla believed that energy always seeks flow. If it doesn't flow in one place, it accumulates in others, generating tension and noise. Now imagine this same reasoning applied to creativity. The sacral chakra, located below the navel, is the engine of creation, emotions, and vitality. How many times have you felt blocked, unable to express ideas or emotions, as if something inside you were stuck? This wouldn't just be psychological but vibrational. It's as if a gear had stopped turning. And when this happens, the whole machine suffers. Pleasure diminishes, inspiration fades, and life seems to lose color. For Tesla, each low frequency trapped the human being in a repetitive cycle. The question is, what can we do to get this gear moving again? The answer may lie in the next chakra, the solar plexus, in the center of the abdomen. It governs willpower, the power to decide, and the impulse to act. Modern research shows that the gut contains millions of neurons and is called the second brain. Is it a coincidence that this energy center is located precisely in this region? Tesla didn't believe in coincidences. For him, nature designed everything precisely, as if it were a cosmic engineer. What if our difficulties in taking action, in believing in ourselves, were the direct result of a poorly regulated circuit in this region? This is where the heart comes in, the most powerful center of all. Science has proven that the heart generates the most intense electromagnetic field in the human body, hundreds of times stronger than that of the brain. Tesla, who dedicated his life to understanding electricity and magnetic fields, would have seen this as confirmation of his intuition. The heart is a transmitting station, radiating energy beyond the limits of the body. When this center closes, we feel loneliness, resentment, and an inability to love. When it opens, we create an invisible bridge that connects our frequency to that of others. How many times have you felt peace simply by being next to someone who exuded serenity? This is cardiac resonance. And what about the throat? This is the center of expression, of the word that creates. When blocked, fear of speaking arises, difficulty in expressing what we feel. When balanced, words flow like clear waves capable of transforming environments. Tesla believed in the power of sound, claiming that certain frequencies could change physical states. If this is true, every word we speak can be seen as a wave that alters reality. Have you ever noticed how a phrase spoken at the right moment can completely change the course of a day? Above the throat is the third eye, the pineal gland, the secret lens we've already discussed. But here it connects to the system as a whole, not just as an isolated antenna, but as the center of inner vision that can only function fully when the other chakras are in harmony. If you've ever tried to meditate amid emotional chaos, you know how difficult it is to see beyond. This happens because the upper gears depend on the lower ones to turn. Tesla said that a circuit only works well when all its parts are connected. Wouldn't this also be true of consciousness? And at the top is the crown chakra, the chakra that opens to infinity. The ancients described it as a flower with 1,000 petals, always turned toward the sky. For Tesla, it was the point where the human body meets the cosmos, the signal outlet for the universal network. When blocked, we feel an existential void, as if life had no meaning. When open, we feel expansion, clarity, and connection to something greater. How many times have you had a moment of sudden insight, as if something came from outside and illuminated your mind? This could be a reflection of this active center. But what does all this mean in practical terms? It means we live inside an energetic machine with constantly rotating gears. When these gears are aligned, we feel vitality, clarity, love, and creative power. When they jam, we plunge into fear, confusion, and pain. Tesla believed that humanity was sick because it didn't know how to operate this machine. He saw the future not just in external inventions, but in an inner science that would unite vibrational and physical knowledge. Modern science is slowly beginning to uncover data that echo this view. Research from the HeartMath Institute, for example, shows that when a person feels gratitude or love, their heart rate variability enters a state of coherence, radiating harmony to the rest of the body. This coherence is so strong that it can influence those around them, even regulating their own heartbeats. Could this not be proof that our energy centers function as frequency transmitters? What if it were possible to train this coherence on a global scale? Real-life stories also show how this mechanism can manifest itself in unexpected ways. Tibetan monks have been observed in laboratories drying wet towels over their bodies, using only the heat generated by meditation. Indian yogis have managed to voluntarily slow or accelerate their heart rate. In both cases, what we see is the body responding like a finely tuned machine, consciously manipulating energy. If a few can do it, why not everyone? Could our ignorance of the chakras be the only real obstacle preventing us from experiencing the same? And here comes a breach of expectations. Perhaps humanity's greatest mistake has been to believe that the body is simply biology. By ignoring the energy centers, we reduce the machine to only half of what it is. Tesla would say we're using an advanced circuit as if it were a common light bulb, when in fact we could illuminate entire cities. The question is, do we have the courage to take on this responsibility? Each chakra is a gear that can turn in harmony or in noise. If the root chakra closes, fear arises. If the sacral chakra blocks, creativity dies. If the plexus weakens, the will fades. If the heart closes, love disappears. If the throat becomes silent, truth is lost. If the third eye becomes numb, intuition vanishes. And if the crown closes, the connection with infinity is severed. How many people today live in this exact state of blockage? How many emotional, physical, and social illnesses are simply a reflection of these blocked gears? Tesla saw humanity as an out-of-tune orchestra. For him, the solution wasn't just to create new machines, but to teach humans to operate the machine they already carry within. The body is a circuit, the chakras as gears, the pineal gland as an antenna. This vision, challenging as it may seem, could be the key to radical transformation. But the inevitable question arises: if we have all the pieces, why do we insist on living as if we were broken? The answer may lie in the noise that surrounds us. Excessive stimuli, destructive emotional patterns, limiting beliefs. Like an antenna invaded by interference, our centers become confused and lose their tuning. But just as an engineer can repair a machine, We can also relearn how to calibrate this network. What would happen if an entire generation began to take care of its internal gears? Could we not be facing a new era in which human beings recognize themselves not as victims, but as creators? And here's the hook Tesla leaves us. If everything is vibration, if each chakra is a wheel spinning at a specific frequency, then awakening this network is not just a spiritual path, but a scientific leap. Because in the end, spirituality and science are two ways of describing the same law, the law of resonance. And the question that remains is straightforward. Will you continue living like a disconnected machine, or will you dare to connect the network that connects your body to the symphony of the universe? What if everything you've heard so far wasn't just a theory, but an invitation? Nikola Tesla believed that humanity carries within itself a forgotten power, a silent engineering capable of transforming not only the way we see the world, but the very reality we live in. For centuries, we've been taught to seek outside what has always been within. We build machines, build cities, erect antennas to send signals into space, but we fail to notice the most powerful antenna of all, ourselves. The pineal gland as a secret lens, the heart as an inner sun, the chakras as vibrational gears. All of this forms a perfect network. The question is simple, and at the same time radical. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to live as a spectator, watching the film projected by the frequency to which you've been conditioned? Or will you have the courage to assume the role of creator? Tesla said that energy follows the purest path. This means that, within you, there already exists a natural flow, ready to align and vibrate in harmony. But modern life, with its excessive noise, makes us forget. The first step is to relearn how to listen. Listen to the silence of your own body. Perceive the invisible frequencies that manifest in emotions, intuitions, and signals we normally ignore. What if, starting today, you gave yourself the chance to listen to yourself for just a few minutes a day? Wouldn't that be the beginning of an irreversible transformation? To make this practical, imagine a simple yet powerful strategic plan. The first step is observation. Every day, set aside 5 minutes, just 5, to close your eyes and observe what's happening inside you. Don't fight your thoughts. Don't try to silence your mind. Just observe, as if watching a movie. This act of self-observation clears out the initial noise, opening space to perceive what images you're unconsciously projecting. Tesla believed that it was in silence that the most subtle signals appeared. The second movement is conscious breathing. When you inhale deeply and exhale slowly, you are regulating the rhythm of your electrical system. Studies show that deep breathing calms the heart, increases heart rhythm coherence, and brings the body into harmony. Do this 3 times a day for 2 minutes. It may seem short, but the impact is profound. Ask yourself, what would happen to my life if I learned to control my internal state instead of being controlled by it? The third movement is intentional gratitude. Choose every day something or someone for whom you feel genuinely grateful. It could be a memory, a gesture, even the opportunity to be alive. Close your eyes. Feel this gratitude in your chest, in your heart, as if it were a flame expanding. This exercise activates the heart's electromagnetic field, strengthening the connection between emotion and vibration. Tesla said that the heart is the human being's powerhouse. When it emits gratitude, it tunes into higher frequencies. Have you ever noticed how even small things change when you are in this state? The fourth movement is caring for the body as an energetic temple. Sleep, nutrition, movement, exposure to nature. All of this is part of maintaining the invisible gears. Getting a good night's sleep cleanses the pineal gland. Being in contact with the sun regulates biological rhythms. Walking barefoot on the earth discharges accumulated electrical tensions. This isn't a ritual, but applied vibrational engineering. Ask yourself, am I caring for my machine as I would a precious instrument? The fifth movement is creative visualization. Don't confuse this with fantasizing or daydreaming. Visualizing is projecting clear, emotionally charged images into your inner cinema. Choose a scene that represents the life you want to experience. See the details, feel the emotions, hear the sounds. Make this a daily practice. The brain, as scientists have shown, doesn't differentiate between reality and imagination. This practice isn't an illusion. It's vibrational programming. Tesla claimed that imagination is the greatest creative force, as it shapes the invisible before it manifests. The sixth movement is the conscious choice of environments and people. Frequencies mix. If you constantly remain in environments charged with fear, anger, or negativity, your field is also affected. Observe how you feel after talking to someone or staying in a certain place. If your body feels heavy, there is noise. Your energy expands, there is harmony. Set boundaries, not out of selfishness, but out of conscience. Tesla was selective about his companions, not out of arrogance, but because he knew that harmony is fragile and needs to be protected. The seventh movement is living in the present. This is perhaps the most challenging practice. It's not about denying the past or ignoring the future, but about living each moment as an opportunity for alignment. When you walk, feel your feet touching the ground. When you eat, notice the flavors and textures. When you speak, truly engage in the conversation. This state of presence opens space for your consciousness to adjust the internal projector in real time. Life ceases to be an automatic movie and becomes a conscious creation. What if millions of people applied these steps simultaneously? Not just individual changes would happen, but collective ones. Imagine a city where thousands of hearts vibrate in coherence. Imagine entire communities breathing in a conscious rhythm, projecting gratitude, living in the present. The statistics we've seen from collective meditation experiments show this is possible. If 4,000 people reduced violence rates in a capital city, what would be possible with millions? Tesla believed that the future of humanity would depend on this collective awakening, this ability to use the inner machine as a true powerhouse of transformation. But it all starts with you. The great illusion is to believe that change can only come from outside. The secret is to realize that the world's frequency changes when yours changes. You might think your individual practice is too small to influence anything, but remember, a single lit bulb breaks the darkness of an entire room. A single spark is enough to start a circuit. A single frequency can alter the surrounding field. What if you were that spark? This is where reflection becomes commitment. It's not enough to simply understand intellectually. You must take action. Choose one of these steps and start today. Don't wait for a perfect tomorrow. The time is now. Tesla said that the future belongs to those who see beyond the visible. And seeing beyond doesn't just mean seeing with the third eye, but living with the awareness that you are an active part of creation. Every thought is a seed. Every emotion is a wave. Every gesture is a guiding thread. The strategic plan is before you. 7 simple movements, yet capable of shifting your frequency and, with it, the way the world responds to you. Self-observation, conscious breathing, intentional gratitude, body care, creative visualization, choosing environments and people, living in the present. These are not mystical rituals. They are practical tools for engineering consciousness. They are the necessary adjustments for your inner machine to resonate clearly again. And now the choice is in your hands. You can turn off this video and continue watching the same old movie. Or you can decide to change the film in your projector and start creating a different reality. It's not an instantaneous process, but a journey. And each step you take will open new perceptions, new signs, new synchronicities. You'll begin to realize that life is not a coincidence, but an answer. It's not a prison, but a field of creation. Tesla believed that we are not victims of reality, but creators of it. By internalizing this teaching, you become not just a spectator, but the author of your own script. And when thousands do the same, the script of all humanity can change. This is not just a reflection, it is a call to action. Because in the end, true awakening lies not in knowing, but in living. If this content touched you, if it provoked questions, emotions, or even discomfort, it's a sign that the wheels have already started turning. To continue this journey with me, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your experiences or questions in the comments. If you prefer, do so anonymously. Each comment is a frequency added to this network we're building together. Your presence here isn't just a number, it's part of a collective field that grows every day. So I leave you with the final question, the one Tesla would ask if he were sitting next to you right now. What film will you choose to project from today onwards?